millwrights shop here.
Oh, good. We got one left upstairs.
In 1775, approximately how many millwrights would there be in Colonial Williamsburg?
Wheelwrights?
Wheelwrights.
There were 4 wheelwright shops in the whole decade preceding the American Revolution.
The whole decade, okay.
1775 is a really, really tricky year to look at in the town's history. In part because you have a lot of people leaving. They decide, whoa, things are getting a little wild here. I don't.
So they went back to England?
Yeah, went back to England, or
Okay.
they went somewhere else.
Right.
You have, depending very specifically what north of 75, you see people going into the army.
Okay.
I mean, if you're talking June of 1775, there's been some pretty wild stuff that's happened. Lexington and Concord, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, with the whole mobilization of a war effort, you're starting to see wheelwrights go into government production capacities, people joining
Right.
newly formed military companies and such.
So we just saw a show recently on by Ken Burns, the Civil War, and it talked about at the beginning of the war how the United States really didn't want the slaves, even in, I shouldn't say the slaves, the blacks in the North to participate in the war, but eventually that changed dramatically over the next couple of years. During up to 1776, slaves, how much did they figure in actually participating in military conflicts at all?
Well, I mean, you also have a free black population in some areas too.
Right.
There's overwhelming evidence that soldiers of African American descent served in the American Revolution. 1776, that'd be a little hard to say. By 1777, there's 1 or 2 deserter advertisements in Pennsylvania newspapers from Virginia regiments.
Right.
And the guys are described as black or mulatto.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also, of course, numerous references to black troops in service in Rhode Island state line, Pennsylvania state line, Virginia line.
Right.
So I mean, by 1781, something like 50 or 60% of the troops being sent through Chesterfield Courthouse, which is a sort of a depot for Virginia recruits and
Right.
soldiers. A lot of those guys are black, or again described as mulatto.
Mm-hmm.
But whether they're free or enslaved is sometimes hard to tell. Usually they're free, but there's no reason they couldn't be.
Right.
If they're enslaved, they'd probably be an officer's servant.